Yuichi was a simple young man living happily with his friends, but all of that changed completely when they were deceived by a strange group, and suddenly they attacked them and kidnapped them, and when they woke up they found themselves in a strange place and were being asked to do impossible things. One day Yuichi was sitting at school with his friends talking and joking around together, but after a while the class representative Shiho, who was also Yuichi's friend, stood up with the vice representative Shibe, in front of the students and apologized to them because the money for the school trip had been stolen, and she assured them that she had put it in her locker yesterday, and when she came today she could not find it, and while crying she asked them that if the thief was among them, they should please confess. Immediately all eyes turned toward Yuichi, because he was the poorest student in the class, so he was the first one they suspected, but in the end nobody confessed. The next day, Shiho and Shibe were absent from school, so the students became suspicious of them, and then Tenji, Yuichi's friend, said, "I tried calling them since yesterday and neither of them answered me," and he suggested that they go check on them to see what was wrong. Later that night, Yuichi stayed up preparing flowers for them, but suddenly he heard someone's voice outside, so he quickly went to open the door to see who it was, but he found nobody outside, and when he was about to close the door, he noticed a letter lying on the ground, and it had been sent by Shiho, saying, "I want to tell you something important. So I will be waiting for you at the school gate right now." Without hesitation, Yuichi rushed there as fast as he could to find out what had happened, but he was surprised to see all of his friends there, and they asked him why he had invited them to that place so late, but Yuichi did not understand anything, so Shiho handed him the letters that had his name written on them, and Yuichi was shocked and realized that someone had deceived them. Suddenly a group appeared out of nowhere behind them and struck Yuichi with a stun gun to knock him unconscious, so he fell to the ground and looked at his friends as they were being attacked, and he wanted to protect them, but he lost consciousness. After a while, Yuichi opened his eyes and saw his friends beside him, but they found themselves in a strange room that was completely white and contained absolutely nothing, and suddenly a hidden door appeared and a creepy boy doll came out of it, so Yutori became very frightened because she had seen that doll in comic stories as a character that kills children. The doll then said to them, "Come play a simple game with me so that you can repay the debt of 20 million that you owe," and as soon as they heard those words they were shocked, because they did not understand how they had ended up owing such a huge amount, so Yuichi went to the doll, grabbed it tightly, shouted at it, and asked how all of this had happened. The doll replied that one of them owed that entire amount, and if they played and won the game it would help repay it, but if they lost, each one of them would end up owing 4 million, so they threatened to call the police, but they were extremely shocked when they learned from it that there was a traitor among them, and that person was the one who had entered them into this game. Tenji then asked the doll what would happen if they refused to play the game, and it told him that the person who owed 20 million would have to repay it alone. But if they played, the debt would be divided among all of them, and they could reduce that amount the more they played, and the doll gave them some time to think together. After that, the 5 of them sat together, and Shiho immediately spoke and told them there was no need to know who was in debt, and that what mattered now was playing to help their classmate get out of the crisis. So they all agreed, but Yuichi's suspicion was filling his heart, and when they asked him for his opinion, he looked at them while hesitating a little. Suddenly the doll came up behind him and asked, "Are you suspicious of your friends? It seems that you love money more than them." And Yuichi was put in an embarrassing position, because he had to agree so that he would not appear to be distrustful of anyone. And in the end Yuichi agreed, and then the doll pointed them toward the door that would lead them to the first game. As soon as they enter the door, they find themselves in a place that looks like a classroom, and they go stand in front of the game, and each one of them takes the card with their name written on it, and they are surprised when they find that it contains their debts, with each one owing 4 million, so the doll tells them that nobody is allowed to show their card to anyone else, otherwise the debt will double, but they are allowed to tell others about it, and it is fine if they lie. The doll immediately explains the rules of the game to them. First, each one of them will place their hand on the coin, and it will move by itself toward the answer they chose, and the doll gives them a question as an example, and suddenly the coin moves on its own toward the correct answer. The doll tells them that in order to win they only need to answer one question correctly, but if one person's answer is different from the others, the coin will move with that person's answer even if it is wrong, and that means they must all agree with each other, and the answers can only be yes or no. The game will consist of only 5 questions, and if they answer all of them incorrectly, the person in last place will take everyone's debt, and in order to win this game, they must never doubt their friends. After that, the game begins with the first question, and Shibi immediately pulls the envelope containing the question. But he gives a strange look when he reads it. Yet, when he reads the question out loud, they all become happy because the question is easy, and they are about to win the game. But as soon as they place their hands down, the coin moves toward the wrong answer, and that means one of them is a traitor, so Shiho slams her hand on the table, and is just about to shout. But Yuichi and Tenji place their hands over her mouth so she will not speak, because there is a rule stating that nobody is allowed to talk except the person holding the question, otherwise the debt will double in value. After that, it becomes Shiho's turn to draw a question, so she takes the paper and reads it, and it is also a very easy question. But once again the coin moves toward the wrong answer, and Yuichi is shocked, and begins to suspect all of his friends, but he still does not understand the reason why the traitor is doing this. We then return to the past, where Shibe had been arguing with Shiho, and when Yuichi goes to Shiho to reconcile them, she agrees but on one condition, that he tells her a secret that nobody knows about him, so Yuichi agrees but asks her not to mention it. Then we return to the present, and it becomes Tenji's turn, and he reads his question just like every time before, but once again the coin moves toward the wrong answer, and immediately the suspicion inside Yuichi's heart begins growing more and more, but soon it becomes his turn, and when he pulls the paper he is shocked, because there is no question written on it at all, and he is supposed to choose a question himself. He also reads at the bottom of the paper that if the coin moves toward the answer yes, they will win the game, but if it moves toward the answer no, his debt will be reduced by half, and then he realizes that the previous papers were the same, and all of them chose easy questions, so that they could change their answers and reduce their debts. And now Yuichi only has two choices, either choose the correct answer and win the game, in which case only 400,000 will be reduced from his debt, or betray them and choose the wrong answer, in which case his debt will be cut in half. However, he decides not to sell out his friends and instead win the game, and as soon as they place their hands on the coin, it once again moves toward the wrong answer. And Yuichi is shocked because he was not the one who changed the answer, and he learns the truth that one of them wants to make Yutori finish in last place and take all of the debt, but he is confused because the fifth paper will be the same situation, which means all of them will end up with equal debts, and nobody will finish in last place. But Yuichi quickly realizes that the fifth question is different from the others and has no conditions for reducing debt, and because of that Yutori will end up in last place. When it becomes Yutori's turn and she draws the paper and reads the question, she finds that it says, "Will we stay friends forever?" And everyone becomes afraid because they have started doubting each other, and unfortunately if they lose, Yutori will carry all of the debt, but as soon as they place their hands on the coin, Yuichi speaks to them and breaks the rules. With a sly smile on his face, he tells them that one person among them is trying to place all of the debt onto Yutori, but since he spoke, his own debt has doubled, and that means he will now be in last place. But the thing the traitor did not account for is that if the game ends like this, that person will be the only loser, because on his paper the rule had changed, and the penalty for last place had become assigned to the person with the lowest debt. On the other side, there are two girls from the game's management watching Yuichi and his friends as they play, and they are amazed by Yuichi's brilliant thinking, because in a single moment he managed to win the game because of his intelligence. After that they return to playing again, but Yuichi threatens the traitor among them with his sinister stare, and as soon as they place their hands down to continue playing, the coin moves toward the correct answer this time, and in the end they manage to win the game and advance to the second stage, so Yuichi plans to expose the traitor among them before the end of the second game. He asks them to tell him how much debt they have, but when he finds all of them have matching amounts, he becomes suspicious of them. Yet he tells them that they were unable to answer correctly because they were nervous. And after that the doll takes them to move them to the second game. But Yuichi asks them to go ahead while he ties his shoe, and as soon as they leave, he goes to all of the papers to read the debt reduction conditions for each person, but he is shocked when he finds the text has disappeared. And that is because the game management used a special ink that vanishes after a certain amount of time. Suddenly Shiho enters to talk with him for a while, because she also suspects that there is a traitor among them, and she asks him that if he knows anything he should say it immediately. But she is shocked when she learns that he is suspicious of her, because before the game started she never tried to find out who was in debt, nor even who stole the money, but in truth Shiho had thought that Yuichi was the one who stole the money, and because of that she never tried to find out who the debtor was. Yuichi becomes angry with her, because he thinks she accused him only because he was the poorest among them, but he is surprised when he learns that the real reason Shiho avoided confronting him was because she loves him, and to prove it she reveals that her debt is not the same as theirs, but instead double their amount, and that is because when she tried to speak, a small sound came out of her, and she promises him that she would never betray him. But during all of this Tenji is standing outside the door listening to their entire conversation. After that they head to the second game, and suddenly a new character appears from that doll, and begins explaining the game to them. First it is something similar to a board path, and in order for someone to win they must reveal secret information about their friend. And all they have to do is enter a private room and write the secrets on a piece of paper, place it inside the box, and leave within 3 minutes. Then the management will review the answers, and if they are true, the owner of the secret will move several steps forward until reaching the finish line, and whoever reaches it first will be the loser and will receive additional debt on top of what they already have. But Shiho becomes angry after hearing that, because she would never expose her friends, so the doll advises her to leave the paper blank, because if everyone leaves the paper blank, everyone will move one step forward, but if one person betrays them, they will be in serious trouble. After that the first round begins, and all of the papers are blank and nobody writes a secret about anyone else, but they are surprised when they find their debt has increased by 100,000, and when they play the second round and leave the papers blank again, their debt increases by 500,000, and everyone starts becoming nervous and does not know what to do. Then comes the third round, and this time there is only one paper with a secret written on it, so the doll reads it out loud, and it says that Shio loves Yuichi, and also used to love Tenji when they were younger, so Shiho is extremely shocked, and she moves 5 extra steps ahead of the others, and she thinks that Yuichi is the one who wrote that secret because she had only just told him about it. Immediately Shibe goes over to Yuichi and Tenji and gets angry at them, because they know that he is the one who loves her, so Tenji goes and provokes him even more, and Shiho quickly steps in before the argument gets worse, and tells them that her father and Tenji's father had worked together since childhood, and because of that they spent most of their time together. But unfortunately after Tenji's father died, he was forced to transfer to another school. But Tenji does not stay quiet and starts causing trouble with Shibe, to the point that they were about to fight each other. But Yuichi steps in at the right moment and stops them. After that they enter the private room one after another, and this time there are 3 papers with secrets written on them, including one secret saying that Shio had plastic surgery, and when Shibe asks her about the reason, she responds to him with complete rudeness. In the next round, there is only one paper with something written on it, and the secret written there is that Yutori sold herself for money when she was in middle school, so they hear that and are completely shocked, and Yutori falls to the ground crying intensely, and asks Shiho why she revealed that secret, so Shiho tries to tell her that she was not the one who wrote it, but Yutori does not believe her because nobody else knows about it. Yuichi immediately goes to her and tries to comfort her, so Yutori tells him that she needed the money because of the bullying she suffered from both students and teachers, and unfortunately she had to keep going to school so her mother would not be upset. But she found a way to stop that bullying, which was by giving money to the students, and she asks Yuichi not to abandon her. So Yuichi leans closer to her and tells her a dangerous secret about himself. Yutori becomes happy, but she asks him to stay away from Shiho because she exposed her secret and humiliated her. But Shiko tries to convince her that she was not the one who did it, although of course Yutori does not believe her. So Tenji takes Shiho and they go stand farther away, and she assures him that she was not the one who revealed the secret because she had promised her that she would never expose it. At the same time, Shibe is sitting there watching them and feeling jealous toward them. But all of this is going according to Tenji's plan, because he is the only traitor among them, and he is very happy as he watches the entire group fall apart one after another. We return to the past on the day of the theft, where Shiho is holding the money in her hands and preparing to give it to the teacher, but then her friend comes and asks her to go with her, so Shiho decides to put the money in the locker, locks it with the key, and leaves, and immediately afterward Tenji goes to Shiho's locker to steal it, but he bumps into Yutori while walking away, and unfortunately for him her pen scratches his face, so Yutori gathers her things and apologizes to him, feeling guilty for injuring him. We return to the present, where Shiho notices a scratch on Tenji's face, and that means he was the one who stole the trip money and entered them into this game, because he is the one in debt, and we learn that Tenji was the one who wrote all of the secrets about them, and he had been following Shiko to learn everything about her, and somehow he discovered where she kept the locker key, and he even gave her a chain as a gift, but through it he was able to listen to her conversations with other people, and now his entire goal is to isolate Shiko from the group so that he can manipulate her mind and bring her over to his side. Shiho asks him who exposed Yutori's secret if it was not her, but Tenji grabs her and warns her not to suspect her friends, and suggests that Yutori herself is the one who wrote the secret, because after learning that Shiho loves Yuichi, she probably did it to get closer to him, and accused Shiho so that he would hate her, so Shiho becomes convinced by his words, and now Tenji is extremely happy because his plan is proceeding perfectly. After that they return to the game again, and Tenji enters the private room first, and says to himself that he has to write something about himself, Otherwise people will become suspicious of him. And so Tenji writes a secret about himself and places it in the box. And when he goes to leave, he finds that the door is still locked, because the 3 minutes have not ended yet. After the time runs out and he comes outside, he finds the entire group arguing with each other, and suddenly Yuichi hits Shio with a pen, because she accused Yutori of being the one who wrote the secret about herself in order to get closer to Yuichi. So Tenji looks at them happily, and now Shiho is completely alone after her relationship with the others has officially fallen apart. He cannot believe that things are going this smoothly, and he goes to Shiho to understand the reason for the argument, so she tells him that she went to Yutori to talk to her. But she did not accept it and called her a liar. But it does not matter because she does not want to talk to them right now. So Tenji promises her that he will be the only one who stays by her side. After that they enter the room one after another, and in the end there are 2 papers with secrets written on them, so Tenji becomes surprised because he only wrote one. But when he sees that one of them is a secret about Shiho, he realizes that Yutori wrote it in order to get revenge on her, so he relaxes a little, and as for the second paper, it was written by Tenji himself. And the secret is that Tenji is older than the rest of them. Tenji tells them that after graduating from middle school, he went to a different high school, but he had problems there and unfortunately failed that year. So he enrolled in the school they are attending now, and started over from the beginning. But Shiho is supposed to be his childhood friend, and she is the only one who knows that secret, so Shio and everyone present are shocked, because they start suspecting her even more, since she exposed Yutori's secret and now Tenji's as well. Shiho moves closer to him and assures him that she was not the one who wrote that secret, so Tenji smiles at her and tells her that he believes her, and that the important thing now is that she has become isolated from them, so he will stay by her side, but she must not do anything without informing him first. And now Shiho has joined Tenji's side, and will listen to his words very easily. After that Shiho and Tenji begin moving forward, but suddenly a special opportunity appears for Shiho, which is that she can switch places with one of her friends, and not only that, but a dangerous secret about that person will also be revealed, and this news strikes Tenji like a thunderbolt, because if Shiho chooses him, it could expose the secret that he stole the trip money, or that he signed them up for this game. While Shio is thinking and does not know whom to choose, the doll advises her that the best option is the person she trusts the most, and Tenji becomes more and more nervous, because Shiho might be convinced by his words, especially since she believes that Tenji is not hiding anything from her and has no secrets, and she actually calls out his name. But suddenly Shibi steps in and asks her to choose him instead, and tells them that he argued with them today, and wanted to make up for what he did, and that he also does not have any secret to hide. So Tenji realizes that Shibi is trying to win Shiho's favor once again, and in the end she chooses him, and Tenji immediately becomes happy. But suddenly a dangerous secret about Shibi's father is revealed, which is that he is a corrupt man accused of many corruption cases, and that he has criminal organizations and spent money covering up scandals. So Shibi is shocked and falls to the ground because he never expected them to expose a secret about his family. But Tenji uses the situation in the best possible way, and as soon as he sees Shiho approaching Shib to comfort him, he immediately moves toward her to stop her, and tells Shib that he must have done something and his father covered it up with money, that he wanted to show off about Shiho, and that he must be the one carrying the debt of 20 million, because it is impossible for any of them to owe such an amount, and that he must also be the one who stole the school money. And now Tenji manages to completely destroy Shib, and immediately takes Shiho and walks away from him. After that the new round begins, and this time there is only one paper with something written on it, and the secret says that Shib killed someone. So Shibi is shocked and cannot believe it, but at the same time Tenji is shocked as well, because he was not the one who wrote that secret, and he actually left his own paper blank so that nobody would suspect him. And he asks himself whether Shib really killed someone and more importantly who wrote it. And when Tenji looks behind him, he sees Yuchi standing there staring at him with eyes full of malice. At the same time, Shib refuses to believe the secret, and assures them that he would never do something like that, and asks the doll to expose the liar, so they ask the game's management, but with a probability of 99%, nobody believes Shib, and Shib becomes even more shocked. At the same time, Tenji says to himself that he is certain someone like Shib could never do such a thing, and that the person who did this must be Yuchi, and that means he has a secret plan to expose the traitor, and immediately Yuichi goes to Shib and tries to comfort him, and after that tells them that someone among them is trying to destroy their relationship with each other, and that he knows who it is, so Tenji becomes nervous, but when he hears Yuchi's words, Tenji realizes that he is only trying to reunite the group. But Tenji is shocked when Yuchi says that he found a strategy that can help them win the game. At first they trusted each other and tried to get through it, but during the first 2 rounds their debt increased significantly, and that was unfair. However, in the sixth game, it was the first time they were able to reduce their debt, and that means the management intended to make them lose at first so they would doubt one another, but if they move forward, they will be able to reduce the debt again. However, Shiho tells him that even if they continue leaving the paper blank, it will be impossible to recover their losses now, and that is where Yuchi's brilliant idea appears, which is that each of them will write a secret about themselves along with their own name, except for the person in first place, and then they will be able to catch up with Shibe and move together with him. But if there is a traitor among them, that person will write a secret about Shibe, and then they will know who it is because that person's name will not appear on the papers, and therefore they will easily identify the traitor. But Tenji objects to that method, and grabs Yuchi and tells him that if he already knows who the traitor is, then why not reveal that person and have everyone write secrets about them, so that they alone will lose, and that they will try Yuchi's method first. But if it does not work, he will be forced to tell them who the traitor is, otherwise Tenji will never listen to him again, but Yuchi promises him that he will make the traitor expose himself. After the doll collects the papers, they find that the number written is 10 papers, and by that result the traitor supposedly wrote about everything. So Tenji smiles because he managed to escape the situation with his cleverness, and goes to Yuchi and asks him to expose the traitor among them. But it is obvious that Yuchi does not know who it is, and all of this was only an attempt to make him nervous. Immediately Tenji takes Shiho and walks away, and she tries to explain to him that Yuchi was helping them, but Tenji shouts at her and tells her that she always says that, but now their friendship has been completely destroyed, and he is very happy because he wanted to get revenge on her, since she took something precious from him 2 years ago. After some more rounds, Shiho returns to first place again, and unfortunately she is only one step away from losing the entire game, and no matter what they do to save her, it will be impossible to catch up. But suddenly Yuchi raises his hand because he has an idea, so Tenji walks over to him and mocks him, because he thinks Yuchi is about to ruin everything just like last time. Yuchi tells them that even if he cannot expose the traitor, he will prevent Shiho from losing, and he will do that through lying, and in return all of them will lose except the traitor. Each one of them will enter the room and write that they are the one who joined the Friends game, with their name written underneath, and that way one of them will be telling the truth while all the others will be lying. And if they do that, they will move on to the third game without the traitor, and they will be able to play the game with their true friends, so of course everyone agrees. But Tenji is shocked and nervous, because there is no longer any way for him to escape from them. So Yuchi hands him the paper and asks him to go first. Tenji takes the paper and enters the room, but he is completely devastated and does not know what to do, and it is only a matter of time before they discover that he is the traitor. But he plans that once they expose him, he will keep crying and admit that he really joined the game, but only because he was pressured by some gang or something similar. And after that they enter the room one after another. After a while, the doll takes the papers and informs them that only one paper has writing on it while all the others are blank, and that the person who wrote that paper is Tenji. So Tenji becomes angry with them, and asks why he is the only one who wrote on the paper. But Yuchi tells him, "Didn't I tell you that I would make the traitor expose himself?" Immediately Tenji falls to the ground and begins crying, but Yuchi walks up to him, grabs him by the head and stares at him with eyes full of malice, then asks him if he is the one who did all of this, and Tenji confesses everything himself. Tenji asks him how he managed to expose him, so Yuchi tells him that he set up 4 traps in order to catch him, and after the third game, Shiho and he decided to help each other without telling anyone, and they planned everything without speaking, as he only gave her instructions through written notes. And we learn that Yuchi took 2 papers on one occasion, then wrote on them, and when he came out he placed his hand on Shiho, and told her that he left his paper blank, while at the same time secretly handing her the second paper, which she took, entered the room with, and carried out his instructions. Tenji asks him how he managed to trust her so quickly, so Yuchi tells him that he made her pass the first test, because the paper he gave her contained a secret that belonged only to the 2 of them. A secret he had told her after he argued with Shibe, and was trying to reconcile them, and at that time he wrote a secret about Shibe, and now he is certain that out of the 3 papers that were written back then, he knows the owners of 2 of them. After that, he wanted to know whether Yutori was the traitor or not, and during the 5th game, right after she was exposed and started crying, he quietly handed her a paper without anyone noticing, and wrote on it that Shiho was on their side, but that she should continue pretending to argue with her, and he ordered her to write a secret about Shiho that nobody knew except her. At that point, if someone else wrote another major secret, then Yutori would be innocent, and now only 2 people remained, Tenji and Shabe, and that was when he used trap number 2, because he was the one choosing who entered the room in order, and when the special opportunity appeared, it became easy for him to know that Tenji was the traitor, because the management knew who joined the game, and it would have been a huge risk for Shibe to replace Shiho if he were the traitor, because his secret would have been exposed. Now it was Tenji's turn, and as soon as he entered during the final stage, Yuichi spoke to the others and ordered them to leave their cards blank. So Tenji tells him that one of them could have written as many secrets as they wanted, and Shio could have written more than one paper before. But Yuichi had already accounted for that possibility, and asked them to let him keep their ID cards, and that was the biggest proof that none of them was a traitor and that they trusted him. At the same time, Tenji asks Yuichi why he started bringing the others over and making them his allies one after another while leaving him alone, because that meant he was the most suspicious person. So Yuichi tells him that he knows him very well, and that from the beginning of the game he was not acting like himself, because he had always been calm and intelligent, and whenever one of them got into a fight, he was always the first one to stop it. But at the beginning of the game he argued with Shibe, and also claimed that Shibe was the one who wrote the secrets about Shiho, even though none of them had ever told Shibe any secret. After that, the doll steps in so they can return to the game again, and tells them that even if they discovered the traitor, Shiho is still the only one who will lose, but Yuichi walks up to it, and tells it a dangerous secret, and immediately the two girls in management become extremely unsettled when they hear that secret, and start investigating whether it is actually true or not. After they confirm it, the doll ends the game with Yuichi's defeat, and Yuichi tells them that he personally admitted to writing that Shibe killed someone, but that was a lie, and by doing that he would move one step ahead of Shiho, who was already only one step away from losing. So Shibe angrily asks him what they are supposed to do about Tenji, and Yuichi tells them to ask him why he betrayed them while he goes and clears the third game alone, and then adds that when he said Shibe killed someone, that was a lie, because he is actually the one who killed people. And everyone is shocked and nobody believes him. When the management investigates him, they discover that he killed 3 people at once, and meanwhile the doll tells Yuichi that there is no way he can go into the third game alone and win it, but Yuichi does not care, and promises that he will destroy both it and its game. At that point Shibe speaks and asks him whether he had been playing with them while being a serial killer, and says that all this time he had been friends with a criminal, but Tenji defends Yuichi, and the two of them get into another argument together. And then Yuichi finally gives up and prepares to jump down into the pit, so the doll advises him for the second time that he cannot go alone. But Yuichi tells it that if he goes with them they will only hold him back, and that the best thing is for him to go alone. But before Yuichi falls into the pit, Tenji calls out to him and stops him, then tells the doll that he also lied while playing and that it should punish him too, because there was a paper saying that he loved Shiho, but that was not true, and that the reason he destroyed their friendship was only because of his need for money. And immediately he walks toward Yuichi, grabs him, and the two of them fall down together. After that, Yuichi and Tenji find themselves in a place resembling a prison, and suddenly they hear someone over the loudspeakers telling them that they will remain there for several days, but they cannot find any food, only a single bottle of water for the two of them. Tenji calls out to Yuichi and apologizes to him, then tells him that he came with him because he wanted to explain the truth, and that in reality this is his second time participating in this game. So Yuichi is shocked and cannot believe what he is hearing, and Tenji tells him that all of this happened because of Shiho. We return to the past when Tenji was in middle school, where he had 2 very close friends, and he presented them with a business idea so they could start earning their own money, and all of them agreed and worked together. But everything changed when Shiho suddenly appeared with them at school, because after that day they started facing money management problems for an unknown reason. At that time, Tenji's 2 friends go to him and ask whether he likes Shio or not. But at that point Tenji is not interested in anything except their project, although he becomes certain that both of them have fallen in love with Shio. After some time, they manage to solve all of their financial problems again, and they still have some money left over, and then one of his friends suggests that they join the friends game so they can win money and invest it, and Tenji agrees along with his other friend. However, after they are kidnapped and discover that one of them owes a debt of 10 million, and after they play the game, Tenji ends up being the only loser among them, and unfortunately accumulates a debt of 20 million, and after several days the game management lets him leave, but only on the condition that he never tells anyone about it, and then he goes to one of his friends and gets angry because he betrayed him, and learns from him that he spent all of the money on Shiho. Unfortunately, Tenji is forced to tell his father what happened so that he can help him with the debt, and his father immediately promises that he will solve the problem as quickly as possible. But later that night Tenji finds his father dead in the garden, and when he asks his uncle about the reason, he tells him that nobody knows the details but that he probably committed suicide, yet Tenji does not believe that story, because he remembers that his father told him he was going to ask Shiho's father for help. At that point Tenji decides to investigate Shiko further, but suddenly he receives a message on his phone telling him that if he continues looking into Shiho, he will die just like his father did, and because of that he decides to enter the friend's game and expose her true face. We return to the present, where Yuichi feels guilty because he ruined Tenji's plan. So Tenji tells him that the biggest proof that Shiho is a liar and the traitor among them is that all of their debts should be 10.8 million, and Tenji calls out to the management, and when they announce the debt, Yuichi is shocked. And when he calculates what the true debt should have been, he finds that it should be 18.8 million because Shiho spoke during the first game and her debt doubled, and he finally realizes that she is the traitor among them. Yuichi asks him why he came with him even though he killed 3 people at once, so Tenji tells him that he always had the goal of destroying this game along with its management, and when he saw the malice in Yuichi's eyes toward them, he felt that Yuichi was the right person to stand beside and help him take revenge for his father, and in order to prove his loyalty, Tenji reveals his debt to him, causing it to double, and Yuichi asks him that if they ever return, he should apologize to everyone for betraying them, so Tenji promises that if they return, he will do exactly that. After the 3 days finally pass, the prison door opens and they walk out, but they find themselves in a place that looks like a forest. And suddenly a new doll appears and calls out to another group besides them, so both of them are surprised, and ask why there are other people in this game, when the purpose of the game is supposed to test their friendship. But the doll tells them that this is simply another kind of challenge. The doll begins explaining the rules of the game, which are that each team will choose one person to hide somewhere in the forest, while the remaining members will search for the hidden person from the opposing team, and the team that finds the other group's hider first will be the winner, and the rules state that nobody is allowed to be violent toward an opponent. Nor can the hidden player change locations, but eating, communication, and changing teams are all permitted. This means that if your team is close to losing, the searchers can join the enemy team instead, but even if the opposing team wins, you will not move on with them to the 4th game, and your debt will instead be distributed among the remaining members of your former team. And after finishing the explanation of the rules, the doll tells Yuichi and Tenji that since they are a small team, there is a player from another team who won the previous game alone and wants to join them. So what do they think? And Yuichi agrees, but only on the condition that the person is a girl. But Tenji is shocked that Yuichi agreed, because they do not trust that person and could easily lose if she betrays them. Yet at the same time the two of them alone could never defeat the other team, because their numbers are larger, and then the girl enters and greets them. On the other side within the management, a new girl appears there and makes a bet with the other girl that the larger group will win the game, because they understand each other and there is no way any of them is a traitor. But the second girl already knows Yuichi from the previous 2 games, so she places her bet on him instead. And she even sent one of the management members to play with him and observe him up close. And after that the doll gives the signal to begin, and immediately each team starts moving in the opposite direction. After a while, Tenji decides that he will be the one to hide while leaving Yuichi to search for them, and while they are walking, they notice that there are surveillance cameras everywhere, which means they will not be able to cheat or move from their locations. And we also learn that the doll gave every member a phone, so they could communicate with their team very easily. Suddenly Tenji begins feeling exhausted and weak because of the lack of food and water, so Yuichi goes over to check on him, and although Tenji endures all of it, Yuichi promises that he will search for food and bring it back as quickly as possible. But the problem is that if Yuichi cannot get him food, Tenji might press the surrender button, and then they could lose very easily. After that, they manage to find the perfect hiding place for themselves, and Yuichi immediately reassures him that he left the girl far away from that location so she would not know where they are. But he asks Tenji to trust him and never press the button no matter what happens. And Tenji promises because Yuichi is his only hope for restoring justice for his father who died, and they say goodbye to each other before Yuichi leaves. After 2 days pass, Tenji looks even more exhausted and worn out than before, but after all that time, Yuichi has still not returned to him, and there is also no sign that the other team is close to finding him, which means the game could continue for even more days. So Tenji starts thinking that Yuichi may have betrayed him, and by now he has probably already switched teams, and is trying to torture Tenji, because he betrayed everyone during the second game, and this is Yuichi's chance to take revenge on him. And most likely he is now sitting with the new girl, and having a good time with her. Tenji takes out the surrender button and is about to press it, but then returns to his senses and decides to put the button away, and gets the idea of calling Yuichi to see where he is. But when he calls the phone, Yuichi does not answer at all, and Tenji immediately feels betrayed and starts acting like a madman, but suddenly he receives a call from Yuichi. When he answers, he quickly asks where Yuichi is, But the person speaking to him is actually a member of the opposing team, who tells him that Yuichi plans to abandon him, but Tenji does not believe it because he thinks Yuichi is searching for their hiding place. However, he is shocked when he learns that Yuichi is simply sitting around with the girl, eating and sleeping, and that Yuichi even told the opposing team that Tenji sold him out during the second game, which is why he has not forgiven him. But Tenji still does not believe him, and says that he will trust Yuichi and wait for him even if he dies. But as soon as the call ends, Tenji completely breaks down and punches the wall with his fist while wishing that Yuichi would return as soon as possible. We return to the past immediately after the game began, where the opposing team is still searching for a place to hide, and at that time their leader tells them that he has a strategy for winning the game. And since their numbers are larger and the forest is extremely vast with no visible end, they are not going to search every location for the hiding spot. Instead, they will take control of the food area and monitor Yuichi and the girl with him so that neither of them can reach the hiding place. And if one of them goes there, one of their own members will follow, and then they will easily discover the hiding place. So everyone becomes excited and ready for the plan. We return to the present again, where the girl who bet on the team opposing Yuichi is happy about the brilliant strategy their leader came up with, which is simply that they will monitor the other members, and either Tenji will surrender and they will lose, or they will find the hiding place and win. And on top of that, they are a very united team, making it impossible for any of them to betray the group. Later that night, Tenji has finally reached his limit and can no longer endure anymore, to the point that he starts hallucinating and sees Yuichi holding food and water in his hands, while on the other side the girl cannot believe that Yuichi is leaving his friend like that, and sitting around doing nothing, and she is also confused by Maria, whom they sent to monitor him, because she is sitting around doing nothing just like him. At the same time, Yuichi stands up from his chair and asks the opposing team if he can join them, and all of them are shocked and cannot believe that he sold out his friend so easily, but Maria can see that his eyes are filled with malice and cunning. One of them asks Yuichi why he wants to change teams. So he tells them that just like he said before, Tenji destroyed their relationship during the second game, and he decided to use the third game to make him suffer. So three of them think it over together, and do not object to the decision, but suddenly one of them named Ki appears and tells them to wait until he asks the leader first. Kei steps away from them to call the leader, and Yuichi takes advantage of what is happening and decides to provoke all of them, telling them how they can call themselves men when they cannot even make a simple decision like this. So one of them, named Hayakutaro, becomes angry and rushes toward him to hit him, but his friends quickly stop him before he can do it, because there is a rule stating that violence against the opposing team is forbidden. After a while, Ki returns and informs them that the leader rejected the request to switch teams, because the reason is simple. They will win even if Yuichi is not with them, and he tells them that even if Yuichi insists on changing teams, they should ask the girl with him to switch as well, and then the other team will be left with only the hider, making it impossible for them to trick them in any way, because Yuichi could simply deceive them and discover the leader's location, then call the girl and tell her where he is so they could win the game, and even though his debt would increase, he would still win in the end. So Maria thinks to herself that their leader is truly very smart, but what he does not know is that all of this is part of Yuichi's plan. We return to the past at the beginning of the game, where Maria asks him what they are going to do now, and Yuichi tells her that they are not going to do anything during the next 2 days, and on the third day, he will announce that he wants to change teams, and then there will be two possibilities. Either they agree and tell him where the leader is, in which case he will call her, and tell her the location so they can win, or the more likely possibility is that they refuse. But before he tells her the rest, he asks her to promise that she will follow his lead no matter what happens, and Maria agrees as long as they win the game, after which he immediately tells her the plan, and when she hears it, she realizes just how evil Yuichi truly is. We return to the present again, where Yuichi tells them that he has changed his mind because he discovered a way to win easily, so Hayakutaro becomes angry at him, but his friends quickly pull him away before he does something reckless. The next day, Kai and one of his teammates go out searching for the hiding place, while Hayakutaro and his friends stay behind to watch Yuichi and Maria, and suddenly Yuichi wakes up and asks them if they are both on the same basketball team. But Hayakutaro's friend leaves them and goes off to keep an eye on the girl. Hayakutaro immediately starts talking with Yuichi about his team and tells him about how great their leader is at making decisions, but he also tells him that he used to be terrible at making shots, and because of him their leader suffered a serious injury, so he kept training seriously in order to help him afterward. Then Yuichi asks him which one of them is in debt and sign them up for the friends game. But Hayakutaro's teammate quickly interrupts and stops him from talking, then asks him to go watch the girl while he watches Yuichi instead. So Haikutaro apologizes and leaves his spot, but when he goes to the girl, he finds that she is not there, and immediately becomes nervous and starts searching for her. And when he finally finds her, he becomes very embarrassed and returns to his friend. His friend becomes angry because he is supposed to be watching her right now, and decides that he will go himself instead. But Haikutaro stops him, and Yuchi immediately takes advantage of what is happening and calls out to Maria so she can carry out the plan, then grabs the bag of food and starts running away, causing the two of them to split up so each one can chase either Yuchi or Maria. After a while they regroup and begin chasing both of them together, and suddenly, while Yuchi is running, he shoves Maria and causes her to fall from a high place, and all of them are completely shocked by what Yuchi just did. Meanwhile, Tenji is sitting alone and is on the verge of dying from hunger and thirst, and decides that he is finally going to press the button, because he cannot endure any longer. But after thinking for a moment, he finds no reason to do it because that way he will never avenge his father, and decides that he will keep waiting for Yuchi even if it kills him, but eventually he cannot endure anymore and loses consciousness. Then Tenji opens his eyes and sees Yuchi giving him water to drink, and Yuichi apologizes for all the delay. But Tenji is extremely happy and relieved to see him. After a while, Tenji keeps eating and drinking greedily, and tells Yuichi that if he had explained everything from the beginning, he would not have suffered this much, so Yuichi apologizes to him, but says that he was testing whether he would press the button or not, and now he can trust him again, then tells him what is currently happening, and that the fact he managed to reach him means they are already halfway toward victory. Yuichi explains that he pushed Maria off the cliff so Haikutaro would run to save her and catch her at the last second. And then he would ask his teammate to help pull her up because there is no way he could do it alone. But his friend would want to keep chasing Yuchi instead, although in the end he would choose to help him save her. And Tenji is amazed by how much of a risk Yuichi took. Yuichi tells him that for the past 3 days he has been studying them one by one, and sometimes revealing bits of information so they would talk to him, while at other times provoking them. But now he has finally identified the person through whom he will win, and that person is Hayakutaro, because he is a naive and extremely impulsive young man, and now he is going to destroy all of the relationships between them. On the other side, Maria thanks Yakutaro and his teammate for helping her, and Hayakutaro's teammate says that he has no idea what Yuichi was thinking, and asks what would have happened if they had not been there, because Maria would have died by now. So Hayakutaro swears that the moment he sees Yuichi again, he is going to punch him. After that, the three of them return to the food area once more. And, at that moment, the opposing team gathers together to think about what they should do next. And suddenly they find Yuichi walking toward them, and informing them that he is ready for a longer struggle. So Hayakutaro approaches him and asks how he can come back here after what he did. But Yuichi provokes him and goes to sit beside Maria, so Hayakutaro warns him that if he does not stay away from the girl, he is going to hit him, but Yuichi ignores his warning, causing Hayakutaro to become furious and nearly attack him. But Maria quickly stands up and stops him, telling him that if he hits Yuichi, they will lose the game, so Yuichi gets angry at her and grabs her harshly by the hair. The opposing team immediately goes to the doll and complains that Yuichi is using violence, which is forbidden by the rules. But the doll tells them that this is violence against a teammate, so Yuichi laughs because if he keeps hurting her as much as he wants, nobody will be able to stop him. Hayakutaro immediately offers Maria a place on their team, but his teammate steps in and stops him because Yuichi is obviously trying to deceive them and the two of them are probably acting together. But Hayakutaro becomes angry and starts saying things that should not be said, causing his teammate to provoke him in return, and the two of them get into a huge argument that almost turns into a fight. But Kei quickly steps in and tells them that the leader is the one who decides everything, while Yuichi keeps trying to provoke them again, and because of that Hayakutaro becomes angry, and takes the phone from Kai so he can call the leader and convince him. But Kei suggests that they go meet the leader in person instead so they can discuss it properly. Yuichi becomes extremely happy because all of this is part of his plan, and thinks to himself that the relationship between Hayakutaro and his teammate has now become fragile, and that the leader will probably agree to the proposal. But just as planned, Maria will refuse to switch teams because Yuichi threatened her, and she will keep crying, and at that point there are only two possibilities. Either Hayakutaro comes and attacks him, in which case they win the game, or his teammates stop him, in which case he will see no better option than switching teams so he can beat Yuichi himself, and then Yuichi will have many ways to make him reveal the leader's location. Several hours later, Kai and Hayakutaro return to the area again, and Hayakutaro says that the leader refused to let Maria join their team, but told him that if Yuichi wants to protect the girl, then he can switch to Yuichi's team instead. And when Yuichi hears that, he becomes extremely happy because it saves him a lot of time, and he immediately agrees without hesitation. The announcement is made that Hayakutaro has officially become a member of Yuichi's team, but first he promises his former teammates that he will never betray them, and then immediately lunges at Yuichi to hit him. But Yuichi quickly blocks the attack, grabs him, throws him to the ground, and tells him that now he is going to make him reveal the location of his leader. Later that night, Yuichi talks to Tenji and tells him that winning the game is now only a matter of time, because he managed to get someone from the opposing team to switch sides, and after that he captured him and tied him to a tree, and is going to force a confession out of him. While at the same time Maria tries to convince Hayakutaro to reveal the location of their leader because Yuichi is capable of doing anything if it means winning. But Hayakutaro reassures her and says that he does not even know where the leader is, and Yuichi and Maria are both shocked when they hear that. So Yuichi goes over and asks him whether he did not personally go and meet the leader, and Hayakutaro answers honestly that he did not, because while they were on the way there, Kai received a call from the leader telling them to return, since it could have been a trap. Suddenly Yuichi receives a call from Ki, and when he answers, Kei tells him that all this time he was actually the group's leader, and that Yuichi completely failed to notice it, because Kei was the one controlling all of the group's movements. But Yuichi says that he will not allow Kei to defeat him, and Ki replies that Yuichi has already lost, and reminds him that he now has a very hot-headed person on his team who could easily attack an opponent. And then Ki hangs up while Yuichi remains shocked, because he has finally realized that he lost. On the other side, the girl who bet on Kai and his friends is extremely happy, but the second girl is confused about why someone like the leader would follow Ki, so she explains that Kei must be holding something over him, especially since he is the one carrying the debt. At the same time, Yuichi is in a terrible state, but Maria does not understand why he is so worried, so he tells her that if Hayakutaro attacks someone from the enemy team, they will lose immediately, which means they have to keep watching him and cannot leave their position. So Yuichi quickly thinks of hiding Hayakutaro before the others arrive, but is surprised to find two members of the opposing team standing in front of him. After a while, Maria gets up to go get some food, but Ki stops her and tells her that he knows she is from the management, and Maria is shocked and asks how he figured it out, so Kei explains that before the game started, Yuichi and his friend only had water and were clearly exhausted and hungry, while she was the only one who never looked hungry at all. And then Ki immediately asks her to betray Yuichi, because they have a 100% chance of winning, and that Maria probably volunteered because she wanted excitement, and that seeing Yuichi humiliated and crying would be even more entertaining, so Maria smiles and agrees to betray him. After that she calls Yuichi and asks him to tell her where Tenji is, because she is alone now and can easily bring him food and water while the others are distracted, and Yuichi actually believes her and tells her, but he is shocked when he sees Maria walk over to Kei and reveal the location, so he realizes that she betrayed him, falls to the ground, and screams loudly. At sunset, Kei calls Tenji and keeps provoking him, so Tenji shouts back that he would never betray Yuichi, but he is suddenly shocked when he sees Kei standing in front of him, and Tenji is completely stunned because he cannot believe that Yuichi finally lost. After that, the doll announces that the game has ended and gathers all of the players together to reveal the results. But then the former leader arrives and lands a powerful punch directly on Yuichi's face. The doll immediately announces the victory of Yuichi's team and friends, and the news strikes everyone like a thunderbolt. So Kei goes over to him and asks how that happened when they found the hiding place first, but the doll points toward their leader, and Kei immediately realizes the truth. Then the leader apologizes to them because he pressed the surrender button. We return to the past, where Yuichi is in the worst condition imaginable, but once he realizes that nobody is around him, he tells Hayakutaro that they had already won the moment he switched teams. But Yuichi did not want to win that way because it was the worst possible solution, and immediately Yuichi calls the opposing team's leader and calmly asks him to press the surrender button, but of course the leader refuses. Because of that, Yuichi keeps punching Hayakutaro in the face and threatens that if he does not surrender immediately, he will continue beating him until he dies, and when the leader hears Hayakutaro's voice after the beating, he becomes extremely shaken, and unfortunately does not have enough time to think and make the right decision, so Yuichi raises the level of torture and threatens the leader that if he does not press the button, he will break one of Hayakutaro's fingers, then gives him a 10-second deadline. After the time runs out, Yuichi actually breaks a finger, and the leader confirms it himself when he hears the sound, because it is the exact same sound he heard when Hayakutaro injured him. But Yuichi does not give him any opportunity to think and continues threatening to break the rest of the fingers, so the leader immediately gives up and presses the button. We return to the present, where Yuichi tells them that he already knew the leader was the one carrying the debt, and that he figured it out from Hayakutaro's expression when he asked about him. So the leader becomes furious and keeps throwing punches at Yuichi's face, but Hayakutaro stops him. Although the leader is confused because Yuichi broke his finger and should be the person he hates most right now, Yet he is shocked when he sees that Haikutaro's hand is completely fine, and the finger he heard breaking was actually Yuichi's own finger. After that, the opposing team leaves because they have already lost, and Maria immediately goes over to Yuichi and asks whether he knew from the beginning that she was part of the management, and he tells her yes, but that she followed his instructions a little too perfectly, and that even when she betrayed him, everything he did afterward was just an act in order to draw the opposing team away from him. Then Tenji reaches out a hand and helps him stand up. Afterward, they are given several days off from the game, and of course they are required not to tell anyone about it, and are also warned not to attempt escaping, because they would end up in serious trouble. As soon as they leave, they decide that the first thing they should do is go see Shiho. But when they enter the classroom, they find nobody there except Yutori, who is cleaning her desk because of the bullying she receives from the other students. And the moment she sees them, she can hardly believe it, then tells them that Shiho and Shibe suddenly disappeared and nobody knows where they are. Yutori explains that when they left the game, the doll told them that the total debt was 10.8 million. But strangely enough, Shiho became extremely nervous and tried to convince everyone not to believe that information. But she became even more shocked when she discovered that Yuichi and Tenji already knew the debt amount. And after that they returned to school again and agreed to act normally so that nobody would become suspicious. But as soon as they entered, all of the students accused Shio and Shibe of being the ones who stole the money. Yet Shibe defended both himself and her and promised that his father would repay the money. However, only 2 days later Shibe's father was arrested because of the crimes he had committed. And afterward Shibe returned to the students and apologized because he could not gather the money. But of course nobody believed him, and because of that he stopped attending school altogether. At that point, Yuichi and Tenji realized that Shibe told his father about the game, and that Shiho's secret was exposed as well, which is why she ran away immediately, and suddenly 2 students approached them and informed them that a major incident has happened at Shibe's house. As soon as they arrive there, they discover that Shibe's father has been killed, and that Shibe is the one who killed him, while the authorities are holding him and his clothes are completely soaked in blood. So they approach him and call out to him, and Shibe is just about to say something about Shiho, but a man stops him, and when Tenji takes a closer look at the man's face, he realizes that it is Shio's father, and at that moment understands that this man is hiding a major secret as well. But Yuichi stops him from speaking because they have no proof. Before leaving, Shiho's father tells them that he advises each of them to mind their own business so that none of them loses something important to them. But Yuichi stares at him with terrifying eyes and replies that he has nothing left to lose, and that if he wants to stop him, he should come do it himself. After that they continue on their way, but suddenly they run into Yutori, who is extremely worried about Shibe and asks them what happened during the third game, and how they managed to reconcile so easily, but Yuichi quickly interrupts and says some very harsh things to her, then raises his voice at her, causing Yutori to burst into tears because she cannot believe that Yuichi, who always protected her, is now scolding her. Later that night, Yuichi and Tenji sit together to think about what they should do next, and Yuichi explains that he acted that way in order to keep Yutori away from danger as much as possible. And suddenly Tenji receives a call from an unknown number, and when he answers, someone tells him that they are about to begin a special friends game, then shows them a picture of Yutori after she has been kidnapped, and threatens that if they do not come, they will get rid of her, but specifically singles out Yuichi and demands that he come alone without bringing anyone else with him. Yuichi immediately heads to the location sent by the mysterious person, and as soon as he arrives there he sees a very large gang, and suddenly their leader appears while wearing the doll's head. Yuichi asks him to release Yutori, and when he refuses, Yuichi rushes toward him to attack him, but the leader pulls out a knife and places it against his neck, threatening that he can expose the secret Yuichi has never told anyone. The leader then explains the rules of the game to him, which are that if he can endure the pain, he will be allowed to leave with his friend, and he asks Yutori to make the choice herself. Either she gets punched in the face by the giant man standing there, or Yuichi takes 3 punches from him instead, and he gives her 5 seconds to think, and she immediately chooses Yuichi, because after he made a secret gesture to her, she understood that he wanted her to choose him. The giant man immediately walks over and delivers 3 consecutive blows to Yuichi, and Yutori starts crying intensely the moment she sees what Yuichi looks like after the beating. And now they move on to the second round, where the leader grabs Yutori's hand and places it on the table, then tells her that either all of her fingernails will be removed, or 3 fingernails will be removed from Yuichi's hand. Yutori is in an extremely difficult state at that moment, but she chooses Yuchi for the second time, and the leader actually goes over and removes 3 of his fingernails, causing Yutori to cry and apologize to him repeatedly, while Yuchi tries to use his old trick of turning the leader's followers against him, but none of them listens to a word he says. Now it is time for the final round, and if Yutori chooses herself, the leader will stab her hand once with the knife, but if she chooses Yuichi, he will stab Yuchi's hand 3 times, so Yuchi stands up, walks to the table, and prepares himself for the leader's knife attack. The leader immediately approaches him and starts stabbing him with complete madness, and because of the intense pain, Yuchi screams loudly. But since he endured all 3 rounds of pain, the leader decides to pardon them. But Yuchi is not going to let the matter end that easily, and stares at him with eyes full of malice and cunning, though first Yutori treats the wound in his hand, and then Yuchi walks over to the leader and asks him to play a small game with him, which is rock, paper, scissors, and if Yuchi loses, he will pay 10 million in cash, but if he wins, the leader will cut off his fingers. However, if the leader chooses paper, he will have to cut off 5 fingers, but if he chooses scissors, he will only cut off 2 fingers. And if he chooses rock, he will not cut off anything at all, which is the safest option if he does not want to take risks. But Yuchi tells him that he has one advantage over him, which is that with this hand, Yuchi can only play rock or paper. In order to put the leader in an embarrassing position in front of his gang members, Yuichi promises them that if the leader wins, each one of them will receive a reward of 1 million, and immediately everyone becomes excited and starts cheering for their leader. So the leader agrees because he already has a plan. His plan is that Yuichi can only play rock or paper with his right hand, which means that if he chooses paper, it will be impossible for him to lose because in the worst case scenario, it will only end in a draw. But Yuichi interrupts his train of thought and tells him that he already knows what he is going to choose paper, right? And to make things even more interesting, he is not promising that he will not choose paper himself. As soon as the game begins, the leader really does choose paper, but Yuichi chooses scissors with his left hand. So the leader grabs him by the shirt and becomes furious, because that is not what they agreed on. But Yuichi simply tells him that he never said he would not play with his left hand. The leader immediately orders his followers to grab Yuichi and beat him. And just as they are about to do that, a group of armed people suddenly arrives, and the surprise is that they are from the Real Friends game management. Then Tenji appears, and we learn that he was the one who informed the management about everything that happened. And one of the girls approaches the leader so she can take him away and torture him in places nobody knows about. But Yuichi stops her because the leader still has not fulfilled his promise, and of course the leader tries to resist. But the girl places her foot on his hand and pins him down, then asks Yuichi to finish the matter quickly, and Yuichi really prepares to cut off his finger, but stops at the last moment and tells him that if one of his friends volunteers to take his place, then only 1 finger will be cut off, and the leader becomes extremely happy and asks for just 1 person to replace him. But unfortunately nobody steps forward, because they are all afraid for themselves, and while the leader is yelling at them in anger, Yuichi collapses to the ground and loses consciousness. Tenji and Yutori immediately rush over to check on him, and one of the management girls instantly orders her subordinates to call an ambulance. So Tenji is surprised that she is worried about him. But the real reason is that the game is not over yet, and they need Yuichi alive so he can continue. Maria then tells them that, by the way, if they want to save their friend Shibe from the situation he is in, they must participate in the next game, but if they lose, they will end up owing 500 million, and Tenji and Yutori are completely shocked. But suddenly Yuichi wakes up and asks them to join the game, because after everything they have been through, they cannot quit before learning the truth, and then he loses consciousness again, making it seem impossible for him to participate with them. But Tenji and Yutori promise that they will save Shibe for his sake. And after some time passes, the 2 of them finally participate in the game together, and they see Shibe standing there bound in chains,